Good morning from wherever part you are watching us. This is the dialogue by Brian Muli, and the dialogue comes immediately after the declaration of the Speaker of the National Assembly on ruling that Kenya Kwanza is the majority, despite the fact that Azimio were demanding that they were the majority on paper on the pre-election agreement that was signed. The dialogue today, we have our guest, who is also youth policy analyst, Mr. Joshua Korir, who is our friendly visiting guest here. Mr. Korir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, Mr. Korir, we saw yesterday the Speaker in the afternoon declaring Kenya Kwanza as the majority. Yet, the members of parliament from the other side, that's to be specific from Azimio, demanded that indeed the Speaker ruled Kenya Kwanza as the majority, but they signed pre-election agreement which shows clearly that Kenya Kwanza is the minority and Azimio is the majority. So do you think that the Speaker made a fair decision? What's your thought on the decision, on the declaration?
On the decision, first, I think it was fair.
Yeah.
And we can look at it this way. There's an argument that Azimio has the majority de jure by law.
Yeah.
And Kenya Kwanza has majority de facto by facts. But if you look at how it was constituted, Azimio One Kenya was a coalition party.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I think if you're a coalition party, it means you should break all the small parties within the coalition and have one party. Because for as long as we are concerned, Azimio One Kenya coalition party had only one candidate, who was the presidential candidate.
So it had no elected MPs?
It has no elected MPs, it has no elected senators, MCA, or whatever other position that is elective. You look at even the conditions that were there during the signing of the pre-election agreement. Yeah. It was a condition of intimidation. There was a lot of bribery. There was a lot of, you understood what happened before the elections.
Okay, before you continue, Mr. Korir, on this issue of intimidation, threats, where the parties that defected from Azimio joining Kenya Kwanza, most of them are saying that they signed agreement because they were intimidated, coerced. Do you think we have any party leader who went to court to demand that he was coerced by the former Azimio coalition?
If you look at before the elections, you understand how the criminal justice system was used. The being arrested on Friday and being released on Monday, trumped up charges and all that. So those who could not handle all that pressure had to bow, and they went into Azimio. Now, after the declaration of the Supreme Court, there was a breath of fresh air. Now there was freedom. People could make their decisions independently, and they could go where they've always wanted to be. And that is why you saw a lot of the people like MDG, UDM coming to Kenya Kwanza, wanting to be a part of their coalition.
Okay. So when the Speaker was ruling on who is the majority, giving Kenya Kwanza to carry the day as the majority in the House, did he base his decision on UDA as a party and ODM as a party, or Kenya Kwanza and Azimio?
I think it's both. Because if you look at the party, UDA is the majority. You look at the coalition, Kenya Kwanza is the majority. So if you talk about either the party or the coalition, Kenya Kwanza and UDA win on both ends.
Okay. Before the declaration of the Speaker, we had a discussion where a debate by the members of parliament themselves, defending themselves from Azimio side and from Kenya Kwanza side. Then we have this Kikuyu member of parliament, Kimani Ichung'wah, who said that in the House, Azimio had only one presidential candidate. That coming into the House, we have UDA as a political party with the majority and not Kenya Kwanza. So do you think the Speaker, when he was ruling on them who is the majority and who is the minority, he based on UDA as a political party and not Kenya Kwanza as a coalition political party?
I think, from where I sit, it's from the part of it being a coalition. Because if you look at the majority and minority, it is a coalition of parties on this side and the coalition of parties from the other side. So we cannot overlook the contribution of parties like ANC, Ford Kenya, and even UDM and MDG. So it is from a point of being a coalition.
Okay, we will revisit this part of the majority and minority in the House of Parliament, where you saw the Kenya Kwanza carried the day and they are preparing to have a Kikuyu member of Parliament as the leader of majority in the House. Still on the issue in the Parliament, on the National Assembly, Mr. Korir, we saw the President recently paying an impromptu visit to the House of the National Assembly. Do you think the President now controls the Parliament or is overdoing his roles?
Not really. I think we should read it for what it is and not overthink. It was just a visit, and we understand that our president is a very social person. So he was just going there to say hi to a few people before he proceeded to, I think, KCC to flag off processed tea to Ghana.
But you know,
so I think we should not read much into that. The more you read, if you read too much into something, you tend to lose a bigger picture.
Yeah, you know, we have claims by the Azmio member of Parliament who claims that the visit of the president in the Parliament actually interfered with the ruling of the speaker on who is the majority. If the president was to say hi to member of Parliament and have breakfast with them or lunch with them, don't you think there is another place to do so, like maybe in State House, a hotel, rather than in Parliament?
You know, Parliament is like the office of the members of Parliament. So if I want to say hi to you, I can come to your office. Saying hi to you does not mean I'm coming to influence your decisions. I'm just saying hi. That's what it is. And for it, as much as I'm concerned, the president did not go to the office of the speaker and did not have a conversation with the speaker. So I do not think.
So the visit of the president has nothing to do with the speaker's declaration.
It has nothing to do with it. Whether he went or not, Kenya Kwanza was still the majority, so it had no effect on the decision that was made. Yeah.
Okay. Coming away from the issue of who is the majority and who is the minority, it was resolved by the Speaker of the National Assembly. Now, before the impromptu visit of the President, Dr. William Ruto, into the House, recently he was on an official visit where he was addressing the first bicameral House, the 13th Parliament. And he had a very brief, his speech was brief. If you compare the rest of the presidents, Kibaki, Moi, and the rest of the presidents, Dr. William Ruto's speech was the most shortest speech ever that was ever addressed in any parliament. So, what's your take on the presidential address on the 13th Parliament?
I think it's how a speech should be.
Basing on the content, do you think it carried enough content from what the Kenyans want? Do you think it carried all the solution to Kenyan problems?
Yeah, it was loaded with content. And it was brief. So you could not listen to the speech, then you get to some point and you're bored, you feel sleepy. So it was precise, straight to the point, and he articulated all the plans they had and what he intends to achieve as the president of the republic. So I think it's exactly how a speech should be. Short enough, loaded with content, and keeps you engaged and gives you an understanding of what government wants to do.
Okay, let's try to have a dialogue on the Ruto's legislative agenda that came from his speech during the address, where the president said that he wants to set aside an oversight fund for senators. But looking at Kenyan economy, commodities are rising high. KRA is taxing heavily on basic commodities. Economy has worsened. Everything has gone high. Yet the president comes addressing the parliament that he wants to set oversight funds for senators. My question is, Mr. Korir, what is this that senators are going to oversee in counties? Yet we have NGCDF for members of parliament. We have governors controlling the county. So these funds that are meant for senators, what is it that they are going to oversee in their respective counties?
That's a good question. I think the Senate Oversight Fund has been quite controversial and misunderstood. And I think the job of the senators is to oversight counties. But oversighting does not mean that you'll not need the money to oversight. Counties are big. You look at counties like Marsabit, Mandera, there's a lot of distance to travel. So maybe you might need resources. Maybe there's a project being carried out, let's say like a dam or maybe a road, And as a senator, you'd want to know the progress, or maybe there's something controversial about the project, and you need to go in person to see it, or you need to send someone to go and see it on your behalf. So you'll need resources to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll need resources to communicate, transport, like everything that goes with.
But
all that work.
Talking about that senators need more resources on this.
Yeah.
If I look very well, even the 12th parliament and past parliaments in Kenya, these senators are given sitting allowance in the house. They're given enough salaries. They're also given, their cars are given fuel by the government. So what is these oversight funds? If they have sitting allowance, they have enough salary, their cars are fuel, they're given transport allowance. Government is providing them with everything. So what they are needed is only to go into the house and to make laws. So, but you see the president now is telling the parliament that now senators will also be given an oversight fund. Does it mean that now senators will also be issuing bursaries to needy bright students in the respective counties?
I don't think the purpose of the oversight fund is for bursaries and projects. I think it's for oversight.
Yeah,
to help them to help them oversight counties the way they should. Because when you say sitting allowance, that is allowance for sitting. So that is what they do in parliament. Because apart from legislation, oversight is one of their constitutional roles. But they have not been given the resources to oversight.
Okay, let's look at now senators in the real pictures.
Yeah.
Senators in counties. We have projects in respective counties, but these projects are under county government. If you look on this constituencies, we have MPs overseeing all the projects under the constituencies. Now you find that now senators have been allocated more money as oversight funds. Which projects are going to undertake in counties?
These funds are not for projects; they're for oversight. For example, let me give you a second example.
Yeah,
you want to audit you want to do an audit of the county, how the county is spending their money. You have to get professional auditors to come and do that job. So that means you'll need the money to bring the guys who are coming to come and do the audit. So that will come from the Senate Oversight Fund.
But the county government can do that, can pay auditors.
No,
in fact, the county
cannot
government has employed auditors who are supposed to audit reports.
No, you cannot police yourself. If the county government is corrupt, they'll pay corrupt auditors to come and audit the accounts.
So you mean when these senators will be given oversight funds, still the government will continue fueling their vehicles?
Yeah.
But this is what we call misuse of public resources.
Not really. Oversight is not understood well. And that is why I'm saying oversight is a job that it takes a lot of people to achieve it. It's not a one-man job because there's that auditing. Then you have to go and look at the project that the county is carrying out. Then maybe you'd have to travel somewhere to look for better ways to oversight. So you need resources. You need resources for that.
Look at this scenario, Mr. Korir, whereby commodities life has gone high, exactly. The treasury has no money to disperse, to pay even salaries, to fund some of the government projects. But now you find that now senators, let's assume that now senators have been given maybe 300 billion as oversight funds. Yet we needed to save, like the president said, that at least every Kenyan needed to save 2 shillings so that the government can add 1 shilling. And in his government, or in his first budget, 2022-2023 budget, he will ensure that at least 300 billion are saved. So do you think now that Kenyans will be saving so that the government can get money to allocate as oversight fund to senators?
No, I think we are staying in an endless loop of discussing the Senate Oversight Fund.
Yeah,
I was hoping we'll discuss the president's speech during the bicameral
parliament. We are still on the president's speech.
And the content within that. Yeah, but as I've explained, I don't think there's anything more I can add. When it comes to the resources, there are loopholes. There's been a lot of loopholes where money is getting lost. And I know the president knows where these loopholes are. So what needs to be done is to fill those loopholes. And as we continue, the economy will be doing better and we'll have more resources. Yeah. So in terms of having those resources, I have no doubt that there will be resources.
Okay, you know the reason as to why I've based more on these oversight funds. It's like many Kenyans are not seeing the sense of senator kupewa pesa ya uangalia county. Like, you know, if you translate oversight fund in Kiswahili, ni pesa ya uangalizi. Sasa Wakenya wanashangaa, hii ni nini ambayo maseneta wanaenda kuangalia katika county? Yet we have governors, we have MPs. Okay, still on the Dr. William Ruto speech on the address of the 13th Parliament. The president said that we need to at least save, that Kenyans need to save 2 shillings and the government will add 1 shilling. Do you think it will be possible for Kenyans to save 2 shillings, whether daily, monthly?
I think on that 2 shillings, he was using it as a point of reference. For every 2 shilling you save as a Kenyan, the government adds you 1 shilling. So if you save 6,000 shillings, the government adds you 3,000 shillings.
So do you think that the previous government, Kenyans were not saving? Now that because we have Kenya Kwanza government, now Kenyans will now start seeing the essence of saving.
It is not only from the previous government. I think it's from the beginning. And saving is a culture that if we adopt will help us and we'll have enough resources to do our own projects without having to borrow debt from outside. Because for example, the debt that we are borrowing from China, this is money that the Chinese have saved. They have one of the best saving cultures in the world. So this is the money that they have saved. Then the government does business with that money. So when we take the loans, they give us loans and we pay back with interest. So this is money that the Chinese people have saved. We come and use it, we pay back with interest. The Chinese government wins, the citizens of China win.
Okay, when should Kenyans expect these hustler funds? Because Kenyans are eager to start businesses, small businesses. And they were promised by the current president, Dr. William Ruto, that we are going to have women affirmative funds, women empowerment funds, youth affirmative funds, and hustler funds. So when should youth start getting their funds?
That comes within the hustler fund. You know, the women, the youth, and everybody running SMEs. If you're in cooperatives, youth groups, circles, you'll be able to access those funds with very little interest rates.
Okay, the president, when he was doing campaigns, he said that the hustler funds will come in his first 100 days. Now we are doing 65 days. We have around 35 days.
No, I think you're counting the 100 days from when the chairman of IBC announced. You should count it from the inauguration day.
Okay, even when we are basing on inauguration. Okay, my question is, when should youth expect to start accessing these hustler funds?
Immediately systems are in place because we just have a new cabinet. We are seeing like lists of principal secretaries and other members of the ministries. So let us be patient. Just kidogo, we give them time to settle. You know, these ESs they're still getting used to their offices. They're still trying to see this corner, what is in this corner, and what is here. So we can give them a bit of time. Because even within the few weeks that they have been in power, we've seen what the president and his deputy have done. So we're expectant. I'm also expectant because I run an SME and I'd want to access Hustler Fund.
Okay, Mr. Korir, how is this going to be possible? Looking at Kenyan economy, we have a huge debt, over 8.7 trillion. But if you look on tax that Kenya collects, you will get that majority of this tax is being used to pay debts on recurrent expenditure and other things. So my question is, how is this hustler funds being to be implemented? What is the possibility of hustler funds?
That's a good question. In this past regime, despite the fact that we had a very bad, dilapidated economy, we still had a lot of phantom projects and projects that were unbudgeted for in the tunes of billions. So if we had that, like we had money to do projects that were not in our budget, do you think we will lack 50 billion shillings to uplift Kenyans? And this is 50,
now my question.
And that is 50 billion shillings that is for the good. Yeah, it is for the good of the people of this republic. It is supposed to help those who are at the bottom to come up.
Okay, the president talked on a very sensible thing of savings, where he said that his government will, in his budget, at least is going to allocate 300 billion for savings. Now, this is where the problem comes, and I want you to ask Kenyans to understand this, that the major problem affecting our country is not even savings, it's corruption. If at all Kenyans are going to save, then in the president's budget is going to save 300 billion. But what about these people who are misusing public resources? Don't you think they will interfere with those savings?
Yeah, I think the 300 billion you're saying is the one that the president said we have to cut down on expenditure of up to 300 billion. And he was telling the ministries, look at what you can cut down on, things that are not a priority at this point. And on saving, the question you've asked on corruption and NSSF. Fighting corruption is not a constitutional role of the president.
Yeah,
it is not in the office of the president. So whoever tells you when I become president I'll fight corruption is a liar, because the presidency cannot police itself. The function of the judiciary, the criminal justice systems, EACC and other independent institutions are to fight corruption. So the only thing the president can do is to make sure he provides a good environment for these institutions to fight corruption. And we've seen this from the beginning, the appointment of judges, money being added to the judiciary, autonomy, financial autonomy of the police. So they've already been given what they need. Now what remains is for them to go for those criminals. So it is a duty of those institutions to fight corruption.
Okay, talking about corruption cases and dealing or handling with the corrupt leaders, we saw the Sirisia MP John Waluke being convicted to around 57 or 67 years in jail. Yeah. We saw this Mrs. Grace, and we saw David Koech. All they were convicted by the judiciary for corruption cases. So what's your take when judiciary is handling these corrupt cases?
I think the law should take its course. Yeah. If they are found guilty, then the right procedures should be followed.
Now, this is now my question, Mr. Korir, where some Kenyans are raising issues that if we have the court has convicted members like Sirisia MP who are involved in Maize scandal, then we also find that in Ruto's cabinet, we have some cabinet secretaries with the same scandals now going to serve Kenyans in those ministries. Talking of Aisha Jumwa, where we also have pending cases in court which are preventing Aisha Jumwa from being rated by the National Assembly, by the Parliament, to be the minister. So what's your take on that?
On that also, the law will take its course, and the fact that they've become cabinet secretaries, it does not mean that they're immune to the law. Yeah. They can still answer. If there's anything to be answered, they'll go to court, and the law will take its course. Yeah. So I believe being a cabinet secretary does not stop you from being convicted, either convicted or not. It does not stop you. And we have to understand that these people are innocent until proven guilty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're watching the dialogue by Brian Muli. We are continuing to have a very smooth dialogue, and we have already looked on this Ruto's legislative agenda. We have talked about the Senator's oversight fund. Now, next we are going to talk about the GMO, genetically modified foods. Yeah. We find that the genetically modified food was banned in 2012 with the reason that GMO foods were leading to cancer. They were causing cancer to human. So how is the government sure that now this is safe? These foods are safe? Yeah.
I think GMO has been, anything that is scientific has always been a bit controversial. And we still have cancer now. And a lot of cancer.
Now that's where the concern comes out.
And we are still eating on the organic foods that we usually eat. And GMO is already used in the West.
So do you think that before the government came up with the decision of lifting the ban on genetically modified foods, they carried a clinical laboratory test to ensure that now these GMO foods are safe for human?
I think they did. They definitely did, because the research on GMO has been done, not only here but all over the world. So before government comes and decides to say that GMO is good for consumption or it's safe, they've already done their research. They've looked into everything that goes that happens within GMO. So I believe enough research has been done on GMO, and I believe it's safe.
Now we have the problem that is hindering our country or our economy is food insecurity. Do you think GMO now will provide a solution to food security?
It is one of the ingredients to make sure that we are food secure. Because the president started with fertilizer subsidy. This will ensure that farmers have fertilizer at good prices. You plant. This means those buying the maize from the farm will buy maize at good prices, because the cost of production was low. Then to the cereals, then to the millers. So it will affect the whole chain of those who work on grains and cereals and any other agricultural product. So I think it's a good step to make sure that we have a fertilizer subsidy, because it will make it cheap. And another thing we can do is to reduce the import of agricultural products, because now the problem has been people make sure that our local maize, for example, is expensive. Then they import maize from Uganda, Tanzania. Then they make business for themselves, while Kenyan farmers are suffering.
Do you think do we have countries that have tried to practice GMO foods and we have seen them working?
Yeah, a lot of Western countries do GMO.
E.g., maybe
E.g.
any country
the
that
US,
has done this?
the United States.
So you think that now GMO, the government lifting the ban on GMO food, will at least try to solve food insecurity in our country?
Yeah, food production will actually go high.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Korir, looking at our government, now you find that this government comes, we had the new expressway, the new Kenya expressway that was given to Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, where Kenyans were held up with so many problems. But when Kenyatta took power, Jomo Kenyatta, not Uhuru Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta, they named his government as the new Kenya Expressway. We came up with Moi, the Nyayo Expressway. We came up with the Kibaki, which was named the Hope Expressway, where they were expecting that they will have now hope in our country. Now we have the Hustler Expressway. But the problems are still the same. Corruption and the problems that Kenyans are facing. Poverty, diseases, and ignorance. Do you think Hustler Expressway will have a way on giving solution and solving these problems?
Absolutely. And we have to understand these problems have been there for many years. So it will take a bit of time to correct them. It does not happen immediately. Development is not an event, it's a process. Now that they're in government, we are not even 3 months into the Hustler government. And these are problems that have been there since 1963, most of them. The trickle-down, brought by the trickle-down economics, was waiting from the top down. But now, it's a change of system, going from the bottom up. So I believe, let's give it time. It takes a lot of work and time to undo things that have been done for the past 60 years.
So if maybe, if I give you a quote on the late President Kibaki's speech during his inauguration, he said that corruption will now stop being a way of Kenyan life. So Kibaki vowed to fight corruption. But in his regime, corruption, in fact, it also worsened. We came and we had President Uhuru Kenyatta, the same scenario, corruption worsened. Now we have President Samoei, Dr. William Ruto. But we are still facing corruption. So which measures do you think the Kenya Kwanza government is going to put in place to fight corruption so that public resources should be respected?
I think the independence of the constitutions will be the best way to do it. And we've already seen it being done. Because when a president says they're going to fight corruption, I do not think it's a true fact. It's not a fact. Because he does not have the instruments to fight corruption. The instruments of corruption are like the DCI, EACC, the judiciary. So the president does not have absolute power to fight corruption.
Okay, what do you think is the best solution on fighting corruption in our country? Maybe suppose you become the president. How will you fight such?
But I've already said the president cannot fight corruption.
Okay.
Entirely.
Okay.
He cannot fight corruption entirely. So I think if we have institutions that are independent and responsible, institutions that understand they are doing the work they're doing on behalf of the Kenyan people. And they understand that the resources of a country are very important because these are things that we need in terms of development and making the lives of Kenyans better. And understanding that public institutions are not institutions where you go and exercise power. It's an institution of service. So you should deliver service to the people of Kenya. And that should be the spirit of service and understanding that these resources belong to Kenyans and they should be taken care of.
Mr. Korir, what do you think that this president they find it hard to fight or to discipline their family and close associates who are involved in corruption or in corruption cases? Because most of these presidents do not discipline their close families and close associates, yet they're the same people who are involved in corruption cases.
As at now, I have not come across any case that is in court that indicts a member of a family or a close associate of the president or anyone in power.
But
so I cannot claim to have a command on that issue. But what I can say is, around people with power, there's a lot of power brokers and people who are there to get opportunities, either to make themselves money or to be corrupt. So in such cases, it should not even be the responsibility of the president to come and pin them down and tell them you're corrupt. Now you should go to jail. It is if the DCI is doing its work, then they should come, look at them, they should step aside, they go to court, the case goes on. If they are found guilty and there's enough evidence, they're taken into jail. So because it becomes tricky when you're telling the president your close associates are corrupt. What is he supposed to do? There's the DCI. It is not his job to take them to jail. It is not his job to tell them you're corrupt now, take yourself to court. We have the criminal justice system that should be doing that. But as at now, I have not come across any case and I don't have a command on that issue, so I cannot entirely say that I can speak on that.
Okay, Mr. Korir, let's have a dialogue on a major problem that is affecting our country, and this is job creation. Most of youth are jobless. Not only the youth. In fact, most Kenyans are jobless. But now the Hustler Expressway promised to solve this problem. So when should the youth expect to be employed?
It has started.
How long do you think it's going to take?
Remember when the president went to Homa Bay, he talked about affordable housing program. And this affordable housing is going to give jobs to the both informal and formal jobs to the youth in Homa Bay. Because there'll be those who will be working on the houses, there'll be the people who are selling cement, there are people who are making doors, people who are selling locks, people who are selling furniture. So it will have an impact on very many parts of the economy. Because apart from Homa Bay, even projects in Nairobi that are about affordable housing are being worked on. So that in itself, apart from providing affordable housing to Kenyans, will provide jobs to the youth. If you look at the Hustler Fund, most SMEs do not get the chance to expand because they cannot get an avenue for good credit. For example, a Mama Mboga today, if they go to a Shylock and they are given 1,000 in the morning to buy stock, by evening they're supposed to pay 1,100. If you do that per year, that is like 3,640% interest on a loan that you took on 1,000 shillings. So if they can access Hustler Fund, and the interest is small, and when a child grows up, no child grows up saying, when I grow up I want to be a Mama Mboga, I want to do boda. It is the circumstances that lead you there. So maybe there's a Mama Mboga who had a vision of opening a shop that sells utensils, or maybe a shop that sells clothes that are imported. So Hustler Fund will give them a chance to come and set up their shop and improve business. So it will not only help them in accessing credit, it will help a lot of people in achieving their dreams. Maybe there's a young man who has the ability to sew clothes, and he wants to sew clothes and sell them. Maybe he wants to be a designer. But because of circumstances, one or two things happened. They ended up riding boda. Now they'll have a chance if they take Hustler Fund. They can work on their business and buy a machine and start working on being a designer. So all these programs that the president is talking about is going to have an impact on the lives of people. Is going to create jobs, because if this young man can be a designer, that means over time he's going to employ more people. So that will be employment. Yeah.
So Mr. Korir, do you think that this issue of joblessness in our country, that the Kenya Kwanza government is going to solve it on first term regime, or come 2027 you'll still hear that wayouth wengi hawana kazi, mtupe nafasi nyingine, tutawatengenezea ajira? Do you think it's going to be the same song in 2027 campaigns?
Kenya Kwanza, the plan, the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza was broken into several parts. We have things that will be achieved within 100 days, things that will be achieved within 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And when the president got into power, he did not get into power for 10 years. He got into power for 5 years. So the promises he made are for these 5 years, because in 2027, he'll be going back to the people. And the Kenyans will be having the marking scheme. Saying, you promised us affordable housing, did you achieve that? You promised jobs for the youth, did you achieve that? You said Hustler Fund will come, we have seen Hustler Fund. You said this will happen. Maybe if this has not happened, what is the reason? Maybe you can explain to us. So this is a plan for 5 years, not 10 years. So whatever the president is saying is something that can be achieved within 5 years or even less. And as time goes, you'll be surprised. It will be like miracles, because we all know the capacity our president has and the track record he has had before. So we should not be surprised when we see this.
So I believe that all these problems are going to be solved in his first term regime.
Yes.
Job creation, hustler funds, roads, health, insurance cover, all these promises. That in 2027 we are going to have new manifesto.
2027 we have new money, or a continuation. Now, for example, like roads, you cannot pave all Kenyan roads within 5 years. There are parts of development that they don't happen within a regime. It takes time, like from one leader to another. So from there, we'll look, let's say at roads, we expected 10,000 kilometers of roads. Maybe you've done that 10,000. Or you've even done 9,000 or 11,000. That will not mean that all roads in Kenya have been paved, but it will be moving towards the pavement of all roads.
Okay, I was forgetting. Thank you for clarifying this issue of Kenya Kwanza manifestos. But before we forget, I was forgetting to address this issue by the president. That the president is planning to merge some of the smaller political parties in Kenya Kwanza now to come up to join one political party, that is UDA. Do you think this is going to be possible? That all other political parties such as Ford Kenya, ANC, Chama, I don't know, CCM, then all those smaller political parties will now join UDA so that to form one political party known as UDA.
I think that will be an agreement between the coalition partners. And it would be a good thing. We look at mature democracies like the United States. They have two major parties. They are a two-party state. They have the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yeah.
So if you're not on this side, you're on this side. It is not that they have other parties, but they are very, very small. Yeah. So if you move towards that angle of having two major parties, and it is parties that are selling not tribe, not affiliations, and nothing else but manifestos and plans and ideas, then it would be a good thing for our country.
So do you think Mudavadi will support Ruto if in 2027, suppose he takes ANC to join UDA so that ANC dies completely? And do you think Wetangula will also support Ruto to deliver Western votes in 2027? Suppose Ford Kenya and ANC is broken and join UDA so that we only have one UDA across the country.
One day in politics is a very long time. And we should not run before we can walk. So let us learn to walk fast. Right now, the thing we need is not politics of 2027. We need a lot of development. There's a lot of things to be done. We have, Rigiji said, we have a dilapidated economy. So that has to be worked on, job creation, and having our systems that work for everyone. So when 2027 comes, it will come with its own. But now, let us learn to walk before we can run.
So you think that is a good idea of merging some of the smaller political parties to join one political party? Don't you think this is against the democratic right that Kenyans are enjoying?
Even the merging of parties is a democratic right in itself. Yeah.
And okay, now this is where I pose a question to you. Now in Kenya Kwanza, we have about 12 smaller political parties. Suppose some parties agree to the president decision and some parties do not agree on the this president decision. Do you think we are going to have a conflict and separation of power in 2027 where those political parties that agreed are now going to work together and those political parties that disagreed on his decision are going to work against him?
As I've said, let us walk fast before you can run.
Yeah.
But it's democracy.
Yeah.
Merging political parties in itself is democracy. Not merging them is democracy.
Yeah.
Like people decide.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be liberal.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned,
we
need to give it time. Before we talk about 27 politics, let us talk about the development that we need now. Yeah. So let us walk before we can run.
Yeah. Okay, this is the dialogue. We have about 15 more minutes to go. So before we wind up, Mr. Korir, do you believe we have state capture in our country? Because it has been a song where the deputy president keeps on saying that the current government was using state capture as a way of ruling. Do you believe that we have the state capture in our country, whereby the president recently had an interview with Citizen TV and he was clarifying that Kenya Airways is under state capture, but only to be answered by the CEO of Kenya Airways, Michael Jackson, that Kenya Airways is not under state capture. What is your take on that?
You said Michael Jackson. Michael Joseph.
Michael Joseph.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. But it's MJ anyway.
Yeah.
So I think the country was in a state of confusion, and there was a lot of state capture.
Yeah.
There was a lot of conflict of interest within government.
Yeah.
That was in the past regime. And you understand where we are now, the systems of the past regime are still being undone. So when the deputy president talked about KQ and state capture, it was not now. It was what they've inherited from the previous regime. And if you came to me and told me that there's something wrong with me, or there's something wrong with what I'm doing, or let's say my company, the first instinct would be to say you're wrong. And that is exactly what MJ did.
But why do you think these parastatals differ by the executive? Because Kenya Airways is a parastatal. Deputy president is an executive member. So whereby when the executive tries to say that the parastatal are doing this, the parastatal say it is not that way. Why do you think that we have no clear communication between the executive and the parastatals?
Let us understand that the new government is getting used to these systems. And our deputy president, he's only been a member of parliament for one term. I think he's the luckiest man alive to have been doing business before. Then he comes, he vies to be a member of parliament. Then after 5 years of being a member of parliament, you are the deputy president. So it's a system that he'll get used to. And also believe, in as much as these are parastatals belonging to the government, they're run by people, and human beings are independent in terms of thinking. So the people in parastatals can think independently from the people of the executive. And it's something that over time they'll be in sync.
Okay, Mr. Korir, as we plan to wind off, let's have a discussion in less than 90 seconds on this political antagonism. Do you think that Kenyans are going to continue they're going to be ruled by only two tribes? Where we had Jomo Kenyatta from the Kikuyu tribe, we had Kibaki from Kikuyu tribe. Recently we had Kenyatta from Kikuyu tribe. We had Moi from the Kalenjin tribe. We have now the Hustler Express led by President William Ruto on the Kalenjin tribe. Do you think that other tribes are not going to be given opportunity to also rule?
First, I don't deny that we've had a history of tribalism. But what I'm saying is, now we need to look at things without the lens of tribe. Because if you say that, what if in 2032, we have another Kalenjin who wants to be president? And this is a Kalenjin who has plans and wants to develop the whole of Kenya. From Mombasa, Kisumu, Mandera, Turkana, all Kenyans, all parts of this country. So do you mean that he has a plan, he has a manifesto, or he has ideas of how to change this country? And let's say we have another person from another tribe who wants to be president, And now we say, let us give this one who does not have a plan, who does not have ideas, who does not have policies to be president, because we've just had a Kalenjin president. It does not make sense. I think in itself, it's tribalism. Because you're saying this one does not deserve the chance because he's from the same tribe like the other. So in itself, it's tribalism, and you're robbing this person the chance to change to change the policies and to develop a country because of where they come from. In itself is tribalism. So whoever says,
if a Samburu Rakamba wants to be the president, he must climb Mount Kenya. Is that the case? That you have to climb Mount Kenya for you to become the president?
No, you just have to come with ideas. You have to have numbers. So if having numbers means climbing Mount Kenya, then okay. But you have to have numbers. And numbers are everywhere within our borders. So, and I believe if a Borana, I hope you get to a point where if a Borana comes with ideas and policies, and they have a manifesto that will transform our country, we support them. Yeah, because whoever is saying that only 2 tribes have led this country, we need to give it to other tribes, are as guilty as those who are saying they want tribal people to live. Yeah.
Okay, talking about this government, we had if you look, when all these expressways comes into leadership, every expressway come with a driver and a co-driver. Then immediately after doing away with the driver, the co-driver now demands to take over. We had, as I told you earlier, we had the new expressway for Jomo Kenyatta. We had a co-driver as Moi. Immediately we did away with Jomo Kenyatta. Moi took over. We came up with Kibaki. Immediately he did away. He was done. I don't know who took over. We had Kenyatta as a driver under Jubilee government. Immediately Kenyatta went away. We had William Ruto as a co-driver taking over. Do you think now we have the Hustler Expressway as Ruto, the driver, and Gachagua as the co-driver? Do you think 2027 or 2032, this co-driver, Gachagua, will also want to take over power and drive the nation too?
You know, this is like the 3rd time I'm saying we need to learn to walk before we can run.
Yeah.
But what I think, from where I sit, is our president now is the first one ever to be a deputy or a vice and come immediately to be the president. So it is a first time. It has not happened before. Kibaki he resigned from government. He tried the first time and failed. Then he tried in 2002 and got it. Between 2007 and 2013, we had Kalonzo as the vice president. But come 2013, he did not take over power. It went to Uhuru Kenyatta, who was the deputy prime minister and the minister of finance. So it is not that because you're the deputy, you have to be the president after the president you're serving under retires. It does not always work like that. I think it depends on the individuals and the vision they have. Yeah. We might want Rigiji to be president in 2032. Maybe his vision is to go and retire with the president.
Okay. So Mr. Korir, thank you for clarifying on that issue. Do you believe that now in our political rhymes in Kenya that we have done away with the dynasty? In talking about dynasty, if I look at the current president, he has sons who want to take over from him. Do you think sons, the hustler sons, will also bring back the dynasty?
That is an interesting question.
Yeah.
And this is my take on that of dynasties.
Yeah.
If those that are said to be dynasties now, like former Senator Gideon Moi and former MP Raymond, were people who worked for the interest of the people. Let's say if you went to the Senate, and you found that we have these bills that is for the good of Kenyans, that Senator Gideon Moi has brought, and we think this bill is going to transform the lives of Kenyans. Yeah. If he worked to sort out the banditry problem in Baringo, and when there's floods, he was there to help the people and to fight for their interests. Yeah. He would not be home right now. He would still be in Senate. Yeah. So we are not from where I sit right now. We should not look at things from the standpoint of dynasty and hustler. We should look at things from performance. We don't care where you come from, because even if you're the so-called dynasty and you perform better in terms of delivering service to Kenyans than someone who is a hustler, then why shouldn't you be in power? Why shouldn't you have that chance to deliver to Kenyans?
So, let me pose you a joke,
Yeah.
Mr. Korir.
Yeah.
So, in 2037, suppose Nixon, the son to the president, says that he wants to vie for presidency. Do you think Kenyans have a right to kumwangusha kwa debe? Because Kenyans are tired of dynasties. Because once you rule, and your son comes in, automatically dynasty.
Kenyans are not tired of dynasties. Yeah. Kenyans are tired of leadership that seems like entitled.
Yeah.
And if anybody coming and saying they want to, they have a track record, they have plans, they have the right ideas that will transform our country, it would not matter where they come from, it would not matter who they are in terms of status, but the only thing that should matter is what they're offering us as Kenyans.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Korir, in our dialogue, we are remaining, if I look at my time, we are remaining with around 10 to 11 minutes to wind up. But before we wind up completely, Mr. Korir, I want us to talk something about borrowing. That now Kenyans have made it as that borrowing has come a way of life. That if you look at the debt right now, it's doing around 8.7 trillion. What do you think Kenya can do to avoid much borrowing, so that it can stand on its own? Yeah,
I think we should prioritize the project. And
in which way?
And the president said the thing you do when you're in a hole is to stop digging. So we need to stop borrowing. And we should prioritize the use of funds. That we have projects that we do that this will have a multiplication effect on the resources we have.
Yeah.
So we stop borrowing, then we prioritize projects that make sure it will have a multiplication effect. For example, the Hustler Fund will ensure that people get money to run their enterprise. If the enterprises are doing good, there will be more taxes, so more revenue for government. Yeah.
Okay, you are remaining with about 4 minutes, where we donate 2 minutes to you to say a word to those who are watching you. But before we wind up, Mr. Korir, that Kenyan revenue, what it collects, most of it end up on recurring expenditure. Do you think that a Kenyan can have a way whereby they can collect revenue externally and depend on its own without going outside to borrow? So that, look at this scenario whereby tunachukua deni kulipa mishahara, yet hatupati ile pesa ambayo tunaweza fanyia miradi. So we happen to have more projects pending because they lack funds. That all funds have gone on recurrent expenditure. Do you think right now that Kenya Kwanza can put Kenya into a level whereby we can have our own external share to spend on recurrent expenditure rather than borrowing outside?
I think our wage bill is one of the highest. Yeah. We have a very high wage bill.
Yeah.
So the right thing to do is to ensure first that we collect revenue, then we make sure enterprises are doing well. That this will mean if enterprises are doing well and there's a good environment for enterprises to thrive, there'll be more revenue for government. Then we prioritize on what is important. We prioritize on the development that is important and that is going to bring us money. Then we reduce the amount of imports and start on working on how we can build our own capacity to satisfy the Kenyan market and then to export. Yeah, that would be the best way to work on having enough resources within your own country. If you work on manufacturing, industrialization, and enterprise. Yeah.
Okay, we have more to talk on this dialogue, but because of time, I don't think we are going to talk everything here. We'll also have another dialogue next Thursday where we'll be having other guests, whereby we are going to talk on the cabinet. Remember, the cabinet is going to be sworn in on 25th, if I'm not wrong, Mr. Korir. 25th, 26th there, and it will start moving. We'd like to have more on this dialogue, but time is not on our side. Maybe Mr. Korir, you can say a word, in 1 or 2 minutes, you can have a word. Suppose you are also a Kenyan. Yeah. If you get an opportunity to address the president, what will you tell him?
I think the people of Kenya. Yeah? I think my message to my fellow Kenyans would be, let us play our part as citizens to ensure that we have a government that works for its people, and we understand that we have responsibilities to play as Kenyans. Let us be responsible. Let us take part in sana youths. Let us take part in political processes. Let us make sure that decisions that are made about us are with us in it, so that we move from being a discussion on the table to being a part of the table. I also look forward to having a country where every Kenyan has the space to run enterprise. It wouldn't matter where you come from, who you are, or whatever your affiliation is, but every Kenyan will have a level playing field that they can be able to achieve their dreams and to hit their goals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Korir. Pleasure to host you in the dialogue.
It's been good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Come again next time.
I will.
Yeah, you are watching the dialogue by Brian Muli, where we had a very smooth dialogue on Dr. Ruto's legislative agendas, the lift and ban on the GMO, and so many other things that we have talked on our dialogue. Let's meet next Thursday, same time, same topic with different guests. I was your host, Brian Muli, on the Dialogue Show.